Hey y'all, this is Curtis Grimes, and I want to give a shout out and a special thank you to everyone associated with TNCRadio.LIVE.
Hello and welcome to TNCRadio.LIVE. This is Truckers Life Radio. And now here's your host, Ron Frazier.
Welcome to Truckers Life Radio. I'm Ron Frazier along with Derek Thompson, and we are your hosts for this program. For those of you joining us for the first time, we are a radio program that is dedicated to helping drivers on life's highway. As we begin our program, we want to encourage you to contact us at Truckers Life at TNCRadio.LIVE. Should you have any questions or even possibly a story of your own that you would like to share with us. On today's program, we're happy to have John Irwin and Chris Kiehl. John is the founder and the president of Compliance Navigation Specialists. John, Chris, we want to thank you both for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Good. Hey, I think where I want to begin with this, you guys, is we want people to know a little bit about your history, about your background. John, you founded this, that's correct?
That's correct.
All right. Why don't you give our listeners a little bit of that history? Who is John Irwin?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I love trucking. I love transportation. It goes back to when I was a little kid. My parents would take me all over the world by plane, by train, by bus, and I just fell in love with just transportation in a whole. I have a lot of years of management experience, and my father-in-law, who is a partner in this business, has been in transportation, the industry for over 30 years. And when we were looking to acquire a business, we started off with a small town notary and licensing center here in Lidditz, Pennsylvania. And that really gave me an opening to start helping out truckers. Obviously, we had a lot of truckers that would come in for licensing needs, but I just kept on listening to the truckers' needs and, you know, what pain points that there were out there. And a lot of them came in and talked about all the paperwork that has to come with trucking, and they just really want to drive. So I learned tons and tons of information. I went out to the Transportation Institute run by DOT out in out in Oklahoma. And I trained with them on hazardous materials, and I learned as much information as possible. And what we did in return with my excellent staff is we created services for the trucking industry to help out those single owner operators with the paperwork, with the compliance. And, it grew to a national level, and we not only help out single owner operators, but companies of, a couple thousand trucks. So that's just a little bit about me.
So John or Chris, one of you guys, explain to our listeners your mission, your vision, your values. What is it that sets you apart from other organizations that do the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, you want to?
Well, the mission really is to make the road a safe place for our families and pretty much everyone out there that's sharing the roads with us. So that's number one. And the vision though is to stay at the forefront of safety, compliance, and risk, and really with the changing regulations, be able to communicate that out and really help out the truck drivers that are pretty much making sure that we are getting everything we need on a daily basis. So really to give them the news and the heads up on what's coming, what needs to happen to keep them in business is another, part of the vision. But regarding like values, we want to be a professional company and, offer our expertise as well as help communicate and be the mediators between, some of the FMCSA auditors that are coming out and, really writing up some of these companies with a lot of violations and whatnot. We help explain what they are and how to the companies and carriers and how they can fix things, stay in business, not have insurance costs go too high, and have cumbersome additional paperwork that you have to file. There's a lot that goes on, and a lot that we try to manage and keep truck drivers doing what they do best and staying on the road. So that's a little bit of an overview there. And
as you know, Ron, trucking runs America, and I love all the truckers out there. And I want to, as a company, we want to help them just be safe and compliant and understand the rules and regulations, because FMCSA's out there. They're always, whether it's roadside inspections or auditing, I want to be protective of these truck drivers and help them make sure that they're not paying the fines that they shouldn't be, and making sure that they're in compliance.
So, hey guys, I sat in on one of your seminar sessions, probably about a year and a half ago, and I heard a lot about what was going on in the industry. But share what you have seen change in the area of compliance. We'll talk about some of the other things, some of the other service areas you do here in a little bit, but talk about the compliance end. What have you seen change just over the last 2, 3, 4 years?
Well, it changed. The compliance changes, and it changes with who's president, who's in the Senate and Congress and whatnot. So regulations are changing often. A couple of years ago, we had some hours of service, a little bit of relief as far as the 30-minute break being expanded to being on duty. We have some split sleeper time that has changed, but regulation it's tightening up again. And with COVID and what happened in COVID, the auditors, the FMCSA found out a way to be able to audit carriers more online, and I think audits are up about 20 to 30%, which is a lot more truckers and trucking companies are getting audited, and that's a huge change from just a year ago.
We're hearing a lot about the changes that are happening at the truck stops. Drivers not stopping, not staying, all of those issues that many of the truck stop owners are facing right now. How has compliance affected that?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Right now, we obviously know truck parking is a huge need out there. I really wish that, in this infrastructure bill that there would have been money set aside, and hopefully that, some does get set aside for more truck parking. But what happens is, you have a plan as a driver to, make the next truck stop before your hours are up, and you get to that truck stop and it's fully packed. There's nowhere to park. Well, you might be run out of hours, so now you're going to have to, use a special exception, I should say, to get down the road. But it's harder and harder to find spots to park. Like you said too, there's a lot of these businesses out there that won't let truckers park in their parking lots anymore. One comes to mind is a Walmart or Target. They don't want truckers parking there, which is sad because there's not a lot of places to park, and these truckers need downtime, and we just need to do something about the parking situation.
Let's talk for a minute, and before we got to go to break here, but let's talk for a minute about your organization and the pandemic. You've talked about how regulations and there's been more regulatory oversight because of the pandemic via the internet. What about your organization? How has the pandemic changed the way you operate your business?
For us, we're a lot busier, I will say that. But we've been kind of ahead with this, being able to do things online. We have special programs that everything can be kept online in compliance, and you actually have a real human looking over it and making sure that the driver files that you submitted are correct and whatnot. So we were proactive in this. We knew that this was somewhat coming even before the pandemic, that they were trying to do more things online. but it kind of came quicker than we first thought.
I think another few things that helped us was we had some good partnerships and networks set up prior to the pandemic. So, for instance, drug and alcohol testing, something that we offer. Well, a lot of our competitors during this time were, whether that be an urgent care or like a med center that you can go to, like Concentra, and pretty much get your drug test. Well, those places they stopped doing in-person drug testing, alcohol testing as well, with the focus on the pandemic. So a lot of these competitors of ours, like, kind of closed their doors to the drug testing, and we were able to, obviously flourish, with that happening. We also offer a lot of on-site services to help out companies with driver efficiency. So basically, anyone that drives a commercial motor vehicle has to have a medical card. We also provide the service of going out to companies and performing the medical card evaluation on site. So we're saving a lot of downtime for drivers traveling. And additionally, we also take up the medical card in Pennsylvania anyway, and have that attached to the CDL license, in Harrisburg. So that's a few little things that we were able to help out with. And
That's good. We've got to go to break, but let's talk about that. We'll pick it up where we're left off. And this is Ron Frazier along with Derek Thompson, and this is Truckers Life Radio, and we'll be back in a minute.
This info blog on TNCRadio.LIVE is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. 3 simple tips to improve your CSA score. There are millions of drivers on the road every day. That's why trucking companies must stay compliant with federal safety regulations. Staying compliant with federal safety regulations not only helps keep yourself and others on the road safe, but also helps improve your safety scores. A good CSA score is extremely important to the success of a trucking company. Drivers that have a good score have access to preferred loads and reduced insurance rates. Here's some tips on how to improve your CSA score. What is the CSA program? CSA, Compliance, Safety, Accountability, is a program of the FMCSA that holds truck drivers accountable for their role in safety. The main goal of the CSA program is to prevent accidents from happening on the road and to identify high-risk commercial motor carriers. Although the FMCSA runs the CSA program, they don't issue CSA scores. The FMCSA created an online safety measurement system that records data like roadside inspections and crash reports from the last 2 years. The data is updated monthly and assigned to your DOT number. The FMCSA then organizes the SMS data into 7 categories, often referred to as basics: behavior, analysis, and safety improvement. How to improve your CSA score? When it comes to CSA scores, the lower the scores, the better. Your CSA score determines whether or not you'll get a visit from the DOT. Over time, your CSA score can be improved by making safety a core focus of your trucking company. Prioritize pre-trip inspections. A large percentage of CSA violations are truck-related. This could all be prevented with a pre-trip inspection. Pre-trip inspections are one of the most important things you need to do before any trip. A simple pre-trip inspection helps you get in tune with your truck before you drive. It lets you know if anything's wrong with the truck or needs to be fixed before hitting the road. Not only are you required by law to perform a pre-trip inspection, but it also keeps you and others safe while on the road. Check out our blog, 4 Reasons Why Pre-Trip Inspections Are Important for Truck Drivers. Be more cautious of who you hire. Hiring drivers with a good driving record is crucial if you want to have a good CSA score. Remember that CSA scores use your driver's crash records to calculate your score. So if you hire a driver with a bad driving history, you're taking on more of a risk. Challenge citations. You have at least 2 years to challenge a violation. If you challenge a violation and it gets dismissed, it'll be removed from your company's CSA score. The Truckers Network has teamed up with CDL Consultants and CDL 360 to provide a full spectrum of safety, compliance, and audit services to our members. CDL Consultants has successfully reduced or dismissed over 35,000 violations and tickets. They've worked with tens of thousands of drivers and companies, including many top 100 carriers. If you need to fight a violation, search for a CDL consultant on the Truckers Network webpage at app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
Hey drivers, did you hear music on TNCRadio.LIVE that you really liked? Or maybe you heard us interview an author of a book you'd like to read or listen to. You can get the books, music, and other products you hear about by going to our website at www.tncradio.live and clicking on the shopping cart.
Welcome back to Truckers Life Radio with Ron Frazier, right here on TNCRadio.LIVE.
This is Truckers Life Radio, and we're here with Chris Kiehl and John Irwin. John is the founder of Compliance Navigation Specialist. And when we left for break, we were talking about, I guess I was talking with you, Chris. Chris, we were talking about the idea of having a mobile health clinic and having a way for drivers to access some medical care. Now, as I understand it, at some truck stops, there are buildings or units that have tried to provide this. How do you differ from that?
So what we tried to, well, initially, geographically, where we're located in Lititz, Pennsylvania, we first started out with actually purchasing a few different pieces of mobile equipment. One that is a power unit itself that can go out and act with two exam rooms and a bathroom, and the other one is more of a mobile unit that we pull on a trailer, and we do some functions in there like audiograms and a few other services. But really what we tried to do differently is we're kind of connecting with companies in certain regional areas and like affiliates or partners of those companies. So potentially, if it was a smaller company, maybe it's a few of them that we can get work with and coordinate together. Maybe it's a 3-hour trip away from us, and maybe each company might have 10 to 20 drivers. Well, we can go out and schedule on a quarterly basis. We can collect all the drug tests that would be required, and then we can also do any expiring medical cards for any of those drivers in those companies that would be coming up within the next month or two. So then following that, we can potentially whatever network they're set up in, we're pretty much connected through Quest and LabCorp as the collecting vendor. And then additionally, for the medical cards, so everyone has a medical card. Maybe it expires every 2 years, 1 year, maybe 6 months. But depending on when those would be, we can schedule because we have pretty much access to see when expiring medical cards would happen for a lot of our drivers that will work with us. So we track that information. So then we can schedule them and let them know when we're going to be in the area and when would be an optimal time for them to come in and get a quick, efficient either drug test or medical card at the same time. So one thing that we developed, which is part of our process to perform these, is to be very quick and efficient. What we hear all the time from employers and truck drivers themselves is that they go into one of these urgent care centers and they wait for like either an hour to get seen or even during the medical test, it takes a long time itself and even getting out of there. We were really trying to push it to 20 to 30 minutes. Have most of the paperwork taken care of as you arrive, and really be efficient with staging out the physical on a couple different levels. So it's not all with the provider. Some might be with the RN or LPN prior, checking vitals and whatnot. But again, everything that we try to do is focused around the driver's experience. So if we we can make it a lot quicker. Drivers can be back on the road. They're not eating up a lot of their day. Again, we're keeping a lot of things moving. There's a lot of nuance to it as well when we do the scheduling, but that's one thing that might be a little bit different from just posting up at a truck stop on the second Tuesday of every month, or per se. We're able to contact and communicate directly to the drivers if we do have their information, and help them schedule things and remind them. So that's a little bit different, probably what we do.
John and Chris, it's great having you guys on the radio program today, and thank you so much for your passion for the truck industry and the truck driver in particular. And as we can relate kind of to the importance of the pain points you mentioned, John, when you introduced yourself. And with this mobile medical unit, I think it's a great example of ways that your company is providing care directly to the truck driver. Part of that is the efficiency and making it easier to access. But I'm wondering also, how do you guys provide care or support truck drivers who are going through emotional, problems, depression or isolation? What are you seeing in that realm? And does the mobile medical unit also help kind of identify that and connect them to services?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's funny that you asked that, because we've been in the process of developing a support system with that. We don't have that out at this time, but that is something that, as far as some of the mental and things like that, is we see that there is a need out there, and we're kind of actually in the talks with working with some doctors and trying to get a program out there.
Yeah, it's kind of relatable to like the SAP program. If you guys are familiar, substance abuse professionals are a part of the DOT, especially if someone would have a positive drug test, meaning that they, came up with something in there that would be illegal. So then at that moment, that driver, to get back on the road and to be able to, continue on in a safety sensitive function, they need to continue to see a SAP provider. So this is something that we've gotten a lot of calls about. We have a lot of articles about the SAP process and what that looks like for people. And it's more than just the drug tests, but it's also a relative tailored plan for that driver and whatever their issues would be. So the SAP provider then can, put a plan together, and then we can help implement that plan, whether it's, there's some counseling involved, or again, follow-up drug testing, alcohol testing. That's all something that, again, with the pandemic too, there has been a definite spike in marijuana and alcohol usage in the industry, and it's really showing up and becoming apparent in the clearinghouse. So this is something that, again, we get a lot of calls about, and we're really trying to figure out a way to help and have another solution out there for these drivers. That there's not a lot of information out there on this stuff. So we would hopefully be another resource.
So guys, how does a owner of a trucking company be able to connect with you guys? I mean, in other words, it sounds like you have 2 units. I'm not sure if I understand correctly. You cover a great deal of Pennsylvania. Is that the case?
Yeah, so our units travel the East Coast currently, and we can dispatch providers and nurses out in other areas of the United States as well. And we're going to be opening up some more actual clinics too in the near future. But they can give us a call, email, or even get on our website and chat with us live, and we can help out in that way.
All right. Now, you talked a little bit about clinics. Is that still part of this mobile unit process, or is that something that's a fixed location?
So those would be fixed locations, strategically throughout the United States at some of the busier trucking hubs or ports and whatnot. We found that there's still a need out there for them. And one of the things, the reason that we even got into this is I put myself into a trucker's shoes, and I have a CDL, medical card, whatnot. And what I hated about the process was, if I had an appointment, I expect to be in that appointment seen right away. And sometimes, at one of these places, it might be an urgent care or whatnot. I wouldn't be seen for an hour after my appointment. And I said, there has to be a better way, because, drivers, they have hours of service requirements. They have, their time is valuable. I said, there has to be a better way. So I got the team together and we said, how can we do this better for the drivers and also take care of the drivers? So if there's a sleep apnea issue or there's some medical history issue, we help follow along, with a case manager to get those documents needed to make sure that they can get back on the road.
So briefly here, before we go to break, how does a professional driver connect with you if he wants to know more about this?
Ron, good question. So we have a lot of different avenues to connect with, like social media, between our Facebook accounts or websites, or even following John on LinkedIn. We have a lot of different ways of connecting that way, or let alone giving us a phone call or emailing us at info@CNSProtects.com. We definitely have a lot of people that do ask questions that way. And lastly, if you come on the website and you want some kind of immediate attention, maybe you don't have time to be on the phone call or whatever, we have a live chat as well. So a few different avenues to ask us questions. We always look, to help out. Sometimes some of the questions become like consulting questions by the nature of, people are asking for what they should be doing. So, just, again, info@CNSProtects.com or our website, CNSProtects.com would be a great way to connect with us. And the phone number real quick is 888-260-9448.
Hey, that's great. This is good stuff, guys. And we're going to go to break here, but we want to come back and pick this up and talk a little more about the drivers themselves. But right now, we've got to go to break.
All right.
So we'll be back in a minute.
Kathy DeCaro is nothing short of amazing. She not only drives the world's biggest truck as a heavy equipment operator in northern Alberta, Canada. She's an international motivational speaker and the author of Dream Big, an autobiography about overcoming a lifetime of trauma and abuse that led to dreams of success. Kathy inspires people the world over to change their lives and improve their self-worth. Her book will change your life. She's passionate about personal growth and believes anyone can change their circumstances and overcome their obstacles if they believe in themselves. Her life will amaze you and seriously inspire you. Be sure to order a copy of her book, Dream Big, on Amazon.com.
Hi, this is Bill Waldrop. Want to learn more about trains? Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central for The Train Station. It's right here on TNCRadio.LIVE.
Welcome back to Truckers Life Radio with Ron Frazier, right here on TNCRadio.LIVE.
Hey, we're back with Truckers Life Radio. We're talking to Chris Kiehl and John Irwin. Derek Thompson and myself are just learning some new things about the trucking industry that I'm sure I know I didn't know. And Derek, maybe you weren't
I didn't know
either.
And I'm glad I do know now.
Hey, guys, we want to talk a little bit about something I have no knowledge of, and that's called the clearinghouse. And that's about all I know about it, but it has to do with drivers. It has to do with their ability, their ability to drive for certain companies. So, John, Chris, one of you guys, why don't you share what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So the clearinghouse was just rolled out, a year or two ago. And basically what it is to track all the drug and alcohol violations that would occur under DOT regulations. The clearinghouse is to make it easier for the owner operators or the companies to make sure that they're not hiring any employee that had a positive drug test or positive alcohol test in the last several years. When they came out with the clearinghouse, they made sure that every company, every owner operator has to be registered within the clearinghouse. Also, they make sure that the MRO and third-party administrators are also registered in the clearinghouse. As a driver, if you work for a company and you've worked there for 5 years, let's say, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to register. All you have to do is sign a permission slip that they can check your record once every year. If you're looking for a new company to work with, you're going to have to register as a driver. And when you go in and apply at that new company and they say, yes, they're ready to hire you, they're going to send a inquiry in there, and you need to give them permission to go into your record. It just checks any violation that you may have had in the past 2 years, 3 years. So that is basically in a nutshell of the clearinghouse.
Previously, on your driver application, whoever was looking over your application would perform this function. It's called previous employer inquiries. And some of the questions that out of your 10-year work history that should be on your application, the person goes back the last 3 years and asks questions like, were they a good employee, such and such. And in the past, they would ask drug and alcohol related questions. Did you ever have any issues? You ever fail a test? Now that is replaced with the clearinghouse, and that clearinghouse just acts as a general database to get that information. And really, with the increase and spike in usage for drug and alcohol over the past few years, this was something that they wanted to really tighten up and make sure that they had the correct information. And if someone did have a potential issue or an abuse problem, that they could track it down, and that person wasn't going to get by just moving around from state to state. And really trying to make the roads a safer place, get these people get some help, and get them off the road. And that's really the main purpose of that.
So let me ask you something. Let's say they come across the driver. The driver has a drug and alcohol issue. Obviously, Derek and I, being part of TFC Global, we have a addiction intensive that we do twice a year for 3 days for guys who are addicted. How do these guys get help? I mean, besides the fact that somebody recognizes they have a problem, where do they go from there? How do they get help?
That's a great question. And as of September 1st, the clearinghouse was reporting 87,000 violations. So that means there's 87,000 drivers that had a violation that needed the help. So they have to go through what's called the substance abuse professional. Yeah,
SAP program.
Yeah, the SAP program. Yeah, I'm sorry there. And they have to find a provider that is certified. So to be certified, you have to be a doctor, a drug counselor. There's some other qualifications as well that they would have to go through. Basically, they would talk to the substance abuse professional, and that professional will work with them and set out a guideline of what they have to do. So they might have to do so many hours of counseling and whatnot. Once they complete all of that, the substance abuse professional would then go in the clearinghouse and order a return to duty. So that means they're clear for return to duty under that driver. So a company that is looking to hire that driver, they would accept that driver and say, okay, we're going to issue the return to duty test. Once they pass that return to duty test, so if it was a drug related violation, they have to be negative. If it was an alcohol violation, they have to be under 0.02. If they pass, then they can get enrolled back in as a driver. Now, for the next year or even longer, they're going to have to abide by this substance abuse professional guideline. And that guideline could be different times that they'll have to take an extra drug or alcohol test. It could be, I've seen them where it was once every 2 weeks to, once every month or so on. And basically that is to watch to make sure the driver doesn't relapse or anything like that. Once they totally clear out of the clearinghouse, they will get a final completion. that will go into the clearinghouse, and again, the driver can work through all that time.
And if someone needs to find a SAP provider, currently right now there was an extension, so you could do like a remote FaceTime virtual SAP provider. You can see one as a trucker, but in the past you had to actually go in and physically see a SAP provider. And there we have a website that we refer people to. It's called saplist.com. And if you go into that website, you put your zip code in there, and it'll pull up all the relative SAP providers in your area. And then once you pull that list up, you can Google search those individuals and get an idea for who you want to go to. And again, everyone has a different case. So, that's a little of that scenario to help those guys out.
Yeah, and I was on your website earlier today, just getting more familiar with you guys. And I saw on your website, you have a resource section where you actually have articles about this, and our people can go there to access that. I have a quick question. And obviously you said it's been about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, that they've implemented this. It's probably too early to tell. I think this sounds awesome. I love what the intention of this is, creating more accountability, kind of taking away the loopholes for people who are struggling with substance abuse. I'm wondering though, if you could share what, again, thinking about pain points for companies and drivers, what are some pain points that this creates, and how do you guys kind of help meet some of those things?
Yeah, absolutely. There is tons of pain points into this. For a company or owner operator, you have to be, signed up with the SAP professional, or I'm sorry, you have to be assigned with the clearinghouse, and you have to run what's called limited queries every year. So one thing that we do is we manage all that on for any company or owner operator, where we'll run the limited queries annually to make sure that they come back clean and save the record. This is going to be, a part where eventually in these audits, they're going to start slapping people with violations and fines for not running these limited queries. Also, for when a company's hiring a new driver, we can do the full query on that driver for the company or owner operator. The other thing that we help try to manage is the actual return to duty process. There could be some pain points with that, as far as making sure that the SAP provider is registered in the clearinghouse and is actually following through with the documentation. Now, they're required by law to do that, but I personally have already seen SAP providers not actually registering with the clearinghouse, and when a driver checks off a box, they're not checking it off in the clearinghouse, and that affects the driver because they're making the steps to improve themselves, and the SAP professional's not reporting it. So if they don't report it for the DOT, it's like it never happened. So we manage that process to make sure that it's getting done and completed as well.
Good. Well, we need to go to break, so we'll do that, and then we'll come back with you guys. And as we go into our last session, there's a couple questions I have for you, and I'm sure Derek have for you, concerning the whole driver issue in general. But for now, we need to go to break. This is Truckers Life Radio, and we'll be back in a minute.
This blog on TNCRadio.LIVE is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. Inspections for truck drivers. Getting stopped for an inspection in the middle of a delivery is a situation every truck driver dreads. Inspections are time-consuming and interfere with the driver's schedule for delivering their load on time. However, they are essential for regulating safety conditions for everyone on the road. There's 6 different levels of DOT roadside inspections. Each level has a unique set of requirements and can happen at any time. It's important to be familiar with all 6 levels of DOT inspections, so if you have one, you can pass. Level 1, North American Standard Inspection. The Level 1 inspection is often referred to as a full inspection and is the most thorough. There are 37 steps to a Level 1 inspection. During this inspection, the driver's credentials and the vehicle will be examined. Because the Level 1 inspection has so many steps, it does take a significant amount of time. A good way to help speed up the process of a Level 1 inspection is by staying on top of driving requirements and proper truck maintenance. Here's some things the inspector will check during a Level 1 inspection. Medical examiner certificate, alcohol and drug use, daily logs, hours of service, HOS documentation, seat belt use, driver and vehicle inspection reports, brake system, chopping devices, exhaust system, truck frame, fuel system, turn signals, brake lamps, tail lamps, headlamps, lamps on projecting loads, safe loading, steering mechanism, suspension, tires, van and open-top trailer bodies, wheels and rims, windshield wipers, hazardous material, HM requirements. If you're a hazard hauler, have your shipping papers ready. Level 2. Walk-around driver vehicle inspection. Level 2 inspections are a less invasive process and are also the most common. They're similar to the Level 1 inspections, except there is less involvement in the vehicle inspection part. During the Level 2 inspection, the examiner will do a walk-around driver vehicle inspection. They'll check everything that's in a Level 1, but will not physically get under the vehicle. Level 3. Driver-only inspection. The Level 3 inspections are the second most common type of inspection. Since the inspection doesn't include the vehicle, it can go relatively quickly. A driver will be expected to present a record of duty status, that's RODS, driver's license, hazmat requirements, medical card and waiver, skill performance evaluation certificate, vehicle inspection report, HMDG requirements, and HOS documentation. Level 4. Special inspections. A Level 4 inspection is a one-time inspection of a specific trend within the industry. This type of inspection happens when the Department of Transportation wants to do further research on industry issues. Level 5. Vehicle-only inspection. A Level 5 inspection is like Level 1, but the driver is not present during the inspection. During this inspection, the examiner will check everything that's in the Level 1 inspection except those relevant to the driver. Level 6 Enhanced NAS inspection for radioactive shipments. The Level 6 inspection is only relevant to drivers that haul radioactive materials. These inspections are put into place to ensure that drivers who haul radioactive material are following proper safety protocol. This info blog was brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
Be sure to catch the Truckers Network radio show with your host, Shelley Johnson, weekdays at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern, right here on TNCRadio.LIVE.
Welcome back to Truckers Life Radio with Ron Frazier, right here on TNCRadio.LIVE.
Hey, we're back, and we're here with Chris Kiehl and John Irwin, Derek Thompson, and myself, and we're talking about the whole issue of driver compliance. But guys, I have a question that's maybe a little off of that subject, although I'm sure it's tied to it in some way or other. We are hearing that there is a driver shortage. But my question to you is this a driver shortage or driver turnover that we're experiencing out there? What do you see?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are seeing a driver shortage because of the driver turnover. The older generation is getting out of it, and there's a lot of reasons why. Whether the rules and regulations have just become too much. Electronic logs has driven a lot of people out. Also, the truck parking situation has driven a lot of people out, as, I know that could be overwhelming of, hey, where am I going to sleep tonight? Where am I going to be safe at? So there's a lot of factors in that is driving it out. And, we're not seeing as many come into the industry just because of the same factors. Also, the pay factor is a big one that we're seeing.
What do you see in relationship to, and how do you deal with, women in the trucking industry? Now, I got to be real careful here because Ellen Voye is the chairman of our board of directors, and she's the head of Women in Trucking. So I want to clarify. What I'm saying here is, what do you see in relationship to all of the compliance issues and the medical issues? How are you working with the women in the trucking industry?
Yeah, absolutely. We love to see more women come into the industry, and we will help in any way. One of our divisions is driver training, and we've actually had quite a few women recently come in, and they were a pleasure to work with. And actually, I think some of them picked it up faster than the men, which was great. And we tried to help them find jobs. A lot of them requested local, regional work, which is understandable. So we have a lot of companies that we work with that have that, and we were able to bring them out. And we follow up with all the health and all those requirements as well that go along with that.
John, Chris, one of you guys talk about your driver training program. Well, I saw that there looked like there was a kind of a variation of it. There was the normal CDL training program, and there was something else there as part of a training program that I didn't quite get. So share with us a little bit about your driver training program.
Yeah, so currently how we do things is we are all one-on-one behind the wheel. So just you and the driver. One of the things that we all sat around and was like, okay, what's some issues with schools? And one of the things is there's a lot of downtime where you're watching other drivers drive, and you're just kind of sitting there and not paying attention. So we developed a one-on-one behind the wheel training where you're with that instructor for 25, 40 hours, depending how long it takes you. And they show you the proficiency. So it's you always behind the wheel, always learning what to do. And we just feel like it's a better way of training drivers.
And then we also offer different variations of that where, we kind of originally started this offering that time frame. And this was maybe to a lot of local people that would be operating different types of either different trailers that particularly no one else is training on, or like different little industries like the car hauling industry with hotshot trucking. Something that we don't really see a lot of other schools offering that. And so that was always the idea, to have different services and like a different niche. And it really just grew. And I think over the pandemic, it was like pouring gasoline on everything that we're doing. It really took off. Hotshot we had like 1,000 inquiries the past month on our article on hotshot trucking. It's all over the country. We get calls from California, Texas, Georgia all the time, and they're asking if they can come up and train just for the hotshot training in Pennsylvania, which sounds crazy, but it's such a niche.
And that's your hotshot is your medium truck. So your Ford 350 with a gooseneck trailer. You're still required to have a CDL, but you're not required to have the fifth wheel, and some of it you're not required to have the air brake restriction removed. So it's a little bit different training. It's still trucking, and there's a lot of them out there. So we just had that different niche.
Yeah, and then lastly, anyone that potentially might have had their Class B and then they wanted to work up to the Class A because of the better opportunities and better pay. Well, we offered accelerated training, which was pretty much like 16 hours to a refresher, getting back out on the road a little bit, using our machinery and our equipment. But that, along with the other variations of this training, the one-on-one training that we're offering, really took off. And a lot of people that don't like the group setting or don't learn well in a group setting, they don't like the classroom setting, whatever that may be, with other people or asking questions in front of other people. It seems to work out for these types of people, what we're doing. So, come February 7th, we have to change some things, as far as like the regulation, the ELDT rule. As far as everyone in the country has to go through a different process, basically, than what they're able to do right now, which is they can train or go get the permit, really wait 2 weeks and then test. And if they would be able to pass their test, they have their CDL. In the future, it's going to be a little bit different, a little harder to do that. There'll be some mandated theory courses that everyone will have to take. And then there'll be a regimented training schedule. And most of, that is still something we're working through. And we really want to deliver our style to that, come February 7th. So
Absolutely.
With that new training requirement, guys, do you see that adding to the driver shortage issue?
Yeah, I do. There's not a lot of people that can take time off from their other jobs. So let's just say you want to get into trucking, but you have a family to support, and you're working a 9 to 5 or a job in the warehouse. You have to kind of conform to the school, which you might have to take a month off, and not a lot of people can do that. So where our program has been good is we work around our trainees' schedule. So again, they might be training behind the wheel for 40 some hours or whatnot, but they're doing it at their own pace. Now with the February 7th rule coming up, we have to have more of a school type, which we're going to have online learn as you go training for theory knowledge, and then still try to do our one-on-one behind the wheel when it suits the trainee part as well.
Well, guys, before we run out of time here, would you go back and just re-emphasize where our listeners can contact you for the various areas of services you provide, okay? So whether it's an email, a phone number, specific contact, or there's something individually for each of those services, give us an update here before we close out.
Sure. So anyone can always reach us at the phone number 888-260-9448. Come through, you can ask questions as well on our chat we have online. It's CNSProtects.com. And additionally, besides the chat, we have a newsletter that people can subscribe to. We do once a month have about 20 different articles that span from insurance to the compliance regulations, some of the licensing laws in various states, seasonal things that would be coming up, for all. So that would be one of the best ways to contact us. If anyone has any questions via email, info@CNSProtects.com is another great way to see a little bit about what we do and how we can help you.
That's great. And just real quick, you cover what territory again?
As far as compliance goes, we are all over North America. We even dabble in Canada. And as far as insurance, we're in about 26 states. In occupational medicine, we are in about 12 states, I believe. And with the Driver Training Center, pretty much anyone that gets their permit in any state, they can come train with us to get their CDL. So we operate primarily in the United States. I don't really have any active clients that I can think of in Hawaii at the moment, but we definitely talk to people out there. And so and
guys,
again, different areas, different questions. So thank you, guys.
Hey, we've been talking to Chris Kiehl and John Irwin. Guys, we're glad you have been able to join us. We thank you for giving us your time and sharing all of this wonderful information with us. Thanks again, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
I hope you enjoyed the show. Let us hear from you. Send email to truckerslife@tncradio.live. Stay tuned.